Anthony Zurcher is with me now, BBC's North American Correspondent. Anthony, it is good to talk to you as always. Donald Trump, is he going to announce a third run for the presidency?
Well, with Donald Trump, you can never say anything with absolute certainty, but all indications are pointing towards a announcement of a new presidential campaign at 9 p.m. tonight, East Coast time, and he seems to be really set on trying again.
So the early morning hours for us on this side of the Atlantic, I mean, this is not the context he imagined, the backdrop he imagined, he hoped for to be announcing this campaign. He hoped that his candidates would have led the Republican wave to take over the Senate and the House in the recent elections. On the back of that red wave becoming more of a red ripple, if even that, I mean, do we know what Donald Trump's closest advisors have been telling him? Has anyone been encouraging him not to make this announcement?
According to news reports, a lot of people have been encouraging him not to do it now, particularly because there still is one Senate contest that has yet to be determined, the Georgia Senate election. Neither candidate, the Democrat or the Republican, reached 50%. So that's going to a runoff that will take place on December 6th. And his advisors, according to reports, have been telling him, don't announce now because of the Republican, someone that Donald Trump himself endorsed, loses that will further weaken Donald Trump's standing within the Republican Party. As you mentioned, he backed a lot of different candidates, particularly in prominent Senate races, and most of those candidates lost. So it would continue to undermine his standing and make it more difficult for him to rally all Republicans around a presidential campaign at this time.
Have any high-profile Republicans, the likes of Mitch McConnell or others of that stature, come foursquare out against Donald Trump running again?
No, and that is going to be the big test. So far, we've heard mostly from the usual suspects who have criticized Donald Trump in the past. People like Bill Cassidy, the senator from Louisiana, who voted to convict Donald Trump during his Senate impeachment trial in 2021, and Larry Hogan, who is the moderate, outgoing Republican governor of Maryland. We haven't heard from, say, a Lindsey Graham, who has been a close ally of Donald Trump's, a senator from South Carolina, or Mitch McConnell, or Kevin McCarthy, who is seeking to be the Speaker of the House if Republicans take control of that chamber. And that will be the real test if the leadership of the party turns against him. But I should say the leadership of the party was against Donald Trump in 2016, and he still won the Republican nomination.
So he may have the support of some of those senior members of the party. We don't know, as you said, that's going to be the real test. He's unlikely to have unanimous support, though. Will he face a challenge within the party from Ron DeSantis?
It's certainly looking that way. Who knows what Ron DeSantis will do? But there was a poll that just came out, released by a conservative group that has issues with Donald Trump, but still a reliable poll nonetheless, that showed Ron DeSantis beating Donald Trump in head-to-head matchups in a number of states that are key to winning the Republican presidential nomination, states like Iowa, New Hampshire, and Florida. So it does seem like there's support within the Republican Party for someone other than Donald Trump. I mean, it's a bit of an irony, though, that the more candidates who view Donald Trump as weak and decided to run for president against him, the more likely Donald Trump can win, because Donald Trump still, no matter what, has a core base of support at about 30 to 40% within the Republican Party. And in a head-to-head matchup against one other candidate, that might not be enough, but in a crowded field, you can win the Republican nomination with 30% support, as Donald Trump did in 2016.
Can he win, though, the presidency with that support? Because that was one of the criticisms, or one piece of analysis maybe is a better way to describe it, of the outcome of the midterms, was that Trumpism doesn't hold the same sway it did previously over those disaffected centre voters.
Right. I think that definitely has been something that a lot of people have taken away from these midterm results, that candidates who are most closely affiliated to Donald Trump, in particular, most closely affiliated to his 2020 election denials, to questioning the strength of American democracy, they lost. People like Carrie Lake, who is a Republican running for the governorship of Arizona, who just was announced lost yesterday evening. Those candidates who most closely embody Trumpism are not supported by a majority of American voters. Now, a lot can change in 2 years, and we don't know what the political makeup, the disposition of this country will be like in 2024. But Donald Trump lost in 2020, and exit polls and surveys show that he is unpopular, certainly more unpopular than Joe Biden, if that's his Democratic opponent, at least at the moment. So it will be an uphill climb for Donald Trump to be able to win over the moderate voters and maybe some Democratic voters it would take to win the presidency in 2024, at this point at least.
Anthony, pleasure as always. Listen, thanks a million for joining us. Anthony Zurcher is the BBC North American correspondent. As he says, 9 p.m. Eastern time in the States, so the early hours of the morning for us. Donald Trump is going to be making that announcement in Florida at his Mar-a-Lago home, and he will be announcing a plan to run for the third time for President of the United States.